I met this girl when I was 10 years old, and what I loved most, she had so much soul. Hey everybody, it's Old School Heart back with another Sunday cultural conversation. I hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope that you've had a productive week. It's been pretty nice out here in Chicago. We hit the 80s today, so I got out there, enjoyed some sun as much as I could because Chicago weather is so finicky. It will be 80 one day, raining, and 40 another day. So I seized the moment. I went outside, enjoyed the sun. I hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed your time away from work if you haven't worked that this weekend. And I hope that you have had time to look at some of the news that has happened throughout this week. So without further ado, let's get into our cultural conversation. So guys, on Tuesday, President Joe Biden addressed the United States. He went over some of the plans that he has for the upcoming years. He also went over his first 100 days, what he thinks he's done very, very well, and some things that he will improve on, or he'll need some time to improve on. He talked about expanding positions for the underprivileged. He talked about colleges, making that affordable. He talked about preschool and the funding that's going to happen with that. He talked about some environmental things that he has coming up. Go back if you have the chance, look at that address so that you can have your own understanding of what he plans on doing in the next couple of years as president. Now, of course, after he gave that address, the Republicans are offered a chance to rebuttal or to make statements about said address. For this particular one, they asked that Tim Scott, the Republican governor out of South Carolina, if he would actually give the rebuttal. Now, during that rebuttal speech, Tim Scott said that America was not a racist country, in which people took to Twitter, people took to social media to basically let Tim Scott know that he is a fool, and that he is a tool for the Republican Party. There were a lot of people who came out against that statement because it didn't make any sense. And to add insult to injury, the day after, Good Morning America actually interviewed our Vice President Kamala Harris, in which she did agree that America also was not a racist country. I want to read something from USA Today so that I quote her correctly on what she said. So let me pull that up for you guys so that I get that statement correct, because I do not want to misquote our vice president, our lady vice president. Okay, it says Vice President Kamala Harris said America is not a racist country, but the nation must speak truth about its history with racism. She said that on Thursday, this past Thursday, on Good Morning America. So she did say that it's not a racist country, but we must address the racial history that we've had. Of course, once again, a lot of people took to social media to disagree with that statement. And then we had Representative Claiborne, who came out a couple of days after Kamala. I believe it was either Friday or Saturday. He had an interview in which he also agreed that America is not a racist country. So within a span of a week, we have three big Black political figures coming out to America saying that America is not a racist country amid the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin, amid the young man who passed away by a police officer in Minneapolis, amid Breonna Taylor, amid all of these things that have taken course within the last year or two. We have three big political figures that should be standing for everything that Black people are standing for, going against the grain and saying that America is not a racist country. So, of course, you know how it works over here with cultural conversations. Of course, I want your opinion about the statement that Kamala, Tim Scott, and Representative Claiborne have made. I definitely want your opinions on that. And of course, I am going to let you know how I feel about these statements that were made this week. First, I want to talk about Tim Scott. Now, we all know that Tim Scott is the pawn for the Republican Party. He can always be used to counter anything that Black America feels outraged about, angry about, or takes criticism with America or the Republican Party or any Republican politician about. He is going to be the counter to that. And also, I think that they are using Tim Scott a lot more because of Kamala Harris. We have now a Black vice president woman, and so they're trying to make sure that Tim Scott's face gets out there a lot more. Now, I'm not sure if Tim Scott is going to be possibly a candidate running in the upcoming presidential election, or if he's making his bid to do so. So he's being a lot more visible. But I presume or predict that we will be seeing a lot more of Tim Scott. The question that I do have for Tim Scott and actually Kamala, the both of them, as they say that the country is not a racist country, I want to know if they plan on profiting off of being the first Black for their political positions. Because if that is the case, I need them to stop doing that now. Because if you believe that this is not a racist country, you don't need to attach Black to anything that you do. Now, Tim Scott is the first Black governor of South Carolina. Now, he could just say that he is Tim Scott, the first governor of South Carolina, but I believe that even after he is done with his political years, he will use that statement in order for him to continue to take care of his family, to profit off of that, to do interviews off of that, to be in the history books because of that. So I do hope that since he believes that this isn't a racist country, then we don't need to be using these first, or he doesn't need to be monetized for being the first of anything. If you look at his Wikipedia, if you look at his political page, you will see that they do include that he is the first Black governor of South Carolina. You also will see that he is the 7th Black Republican ever to be elected. Now, if that is the case, then those things don't need to be added if he believes that this is not a racist country. And that's going to be the same for Kamala Harris. Kamala, I do want to address you with what you said about this country not being racist. If that is the case, then you are not the first Black vice president. You are just a vice president. You are not the first Black. Not only that, we can take back a number of things that we have said as well for you. Particularly, especially when you were running with Joe Biden, how important it was for Black young girls to see you in that position, for all of the Black women to see a woman running as vice president and actually make it to that political arena or stature or whatever you want to call. So if that is the case and the country is not American, you are not the first Black vice president. You are just a vice president. If that is the case, then I also believe that you should not be monetized for that. So once you are done with your political run and you start doing interviews, you start writing books, I don't want you to also monetize off of the fact that you are the first black vice president. I also would like you to take that name off of your position that you had in California as well. If that is the case, then you are not the first black. You don't need to be using that. And so if this country is not racist as you say it is, then we don't need the first. You don't need to be monetized for it. You don't need to be praised for it. Furthermore, you wouldn't have ran and won or been Joe Biden's sidekick, vice president, or whatever, if you were not a first black, if you were not a black woman. So to say that the country is not racist and build your entire political career, especially when you were running for president and also running with Joe Biden, you would have never used black people to get there. You would have ran off of just who you were. If that was the case, there would be no interviews with the Breakfast Club that you did a number of times if it's not a racist country. If that was the case, you know, so it just, to me, it doesn't make any sense for people to listen to these type of people that will profit off of being the first black, and then for them to straight slap black America in the face and say this is not a racist country, we're just dealing with racial things, off of the verdict that we just got over Derek Chauvin, off of Breonna Taylor, off of all of this. To say that is just an insult to black America. But I am not surprised, and a lot of you guys who look at our cultural conversations and people just like me, we already knew that Kamala was the type of person that was not going to stand on anything or any of our black concerns. She just was not going to do it. Because she told us, hey, I'm not going to do anything for just black people. Now, no, that's just ridiculous. I'm not going to do anything for black people. And we heard that. And a lot of our people, unfortunately, turned a blind eye to that and an ear to the things that they heard and they saw Kamala say. And so I know a lot of you guys out there are not surprised, but there are a lot of people who are a little bit taken back by that statement that was made by Kamala. And the funny thing is, with Kamala, you know, everybody ran off of her potential. Everybody took off and wanted to make her the vice president off potential, off what she could be, instead of standing on who she already was. It was very, very clear who she was, what she was about, and what she was planning to do. And instead of saying as black people, hey, you know, she's not it. She's not the right candidate. She's not going to stand up for us. What we did is we said, well, we're going to go with her potential instead. And maybe once she gets in there, then we'll start to see some things change. And what we're now seeing is someone who is going to fall in line with the rest of the people. She's no different than Barack Obama. She's no different than a lot of the black people who have just fallen in line to keep their positions and to keep being liked by their white counterparts. Not only that, she's not going to say that this is a racist country, because then she would have to look at her mate, who is a white male, and recognize that he too, his family, his ancestors, all of that are a part of the problem. And she is not going to publicly say that the person that she loves, his family, the family that she is now involved in, all his ancestors, all of that are a part of the problem and are the reason why we as black Americans are in the position that we're in. She is not going to compromise her family life. She is not going to compromise her friends in order to do that. Black America is just not important enough for her to do that. And that is why she made the statement that she made. So, you know, my opinion here is we are getting, and not we, because I know a lot of you guys did not participate in the last election. I know a lot of you guys did not vote for Kamala. So, you know, unfortunately, because we are part of the Black community, we do have to take accountability for the other people who did decide to vote for her. And what I would say is, you know, unfortunately, because of what they chose, you know, now we're dealing with the consequences of that. We're dealing with someone who does not want to look at this country for what it is. This country was built off of the backs of slaves. This country was built off the backs of free labor from American descendants of slave. You would not have what you have if it had not been for American descendants of slaves. So to say that this country is not a racist country is so false. When you have white people who came and plummeted, pillaged, killed in order to seize this country, and then not only that, once they seize this country, to bring over slaves in order to build this country and to make it what it is today. So to say that America is not a racist country is a complete lie, and she knows that. She knows that, and she doesn't care, because the history is there. The history is there, and not only that, the history is continuing. The history is continuing because we are still a marginalized people. We are still a very impoverished people. We are still a very neglected people. And not only that, in the legal system in which she worked, she knows that a lot of what Black America goes through is unfair. Legally, it is unfair. Legally, it is unfair to have more Black men in jail than there are Black women in the United States. And you're saying that this is not a racist country? How does that happen? How does it happen that the middle class is made up mostly by white people? How does it happen that college graduates, Black college graduates, make far less than white college graduates? And this isn't a racist country. It has nothing to do with race. What does it have to do with then, Kamala? What does it have to do with Tim? And, you know, I don't hold Tim accountable as much because Tim ran as a Republican. Tim acts like a Republican. Tim is around Republican people. So we get what he's about. We get that he's a pawn. But for somebody who used Black people to not only run for her presidency, but to also make sure to get Joe Biden in by her being the candidate for vice president, I am holding her accountable because she loved using us to get to where she's at. If she had not run, Joe Biden would not be president. The reason why Joe Biden is president and she is vice president is off the labor of Black people. It's off the commitment of Black people to see other Black people in high positions, expecting them to do what they said that they were going to do and expecting them to do better because they are Black. And we've seen throughout the years that that's just not the case necessarily. But we have a lot of people, not you and I, but we have a lot of people who really built their trust on seeing Black people in those positions, making strides for us. And, you know, that was one of the things that I have always said, even before we even got to the election, you know, how bad symbolism is for the Black community. Symbolism has always been used as a pawn politically, so that Black people don't criticize, don't get angry, and don't push for more things, you know. And so, unfortunately, with symbolism, we get people like Kamala, we get people like Tim, we get people like Representative Claiborne, who basically, because they are in that position, we get comfortable. Because we are in that position, we are automatically satisfied and we don't ask for anything. We're just happy to see them there. And this is an example of 3 people who Symbolism is just not going to be enough. We are going to have to stay on their necks. We're going to have to make sure that they are accountable. And one way we're going to have to do that is by not electing them again, not showing favoritism towards them. One thing for sure is holding Kamala accountable for that terrible remark. You know, to sit up there and say that, well, we're dealing with some racial things right now. Racial thing. We've been dealing with racial things from the America was built on on bad racial things. And to say that this is not a racist country, if that was the case, then why did your mother go to school in California if that's the case? Why didn't she go to school in Mississippi? Why didn't she choose Chicago? If this wasn't a racist country and it wasn't built on racial things, why did your mother go to school in California? So now is the time, you know, I think as we reflect and we have this cultural conversation, now is the time where we have to decide on how we are going to hold Kamala accountable and how we are going to put people in the political positions for not for symbolism reasons, but for reasons that affect our Black community and what we stand for and what we are looking for. How are we going to do that? That is the cultural conversation today. How are we going to get to a place where we erase symbolism and we start asking for candidates that are out there that want change, that want to be honest about the history of America, that want to make sure that all of our concerns as Black America not only are talked about, but they are fixed. And so today's cultural conversation is, what did you feel about the statement that Kamala, Tim Scott, and Representative Clyburn made? What do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? How do we hold Kamala accountable? How do we deal with people like Tim Scott in South Carolina? How do we get the word out there that he does not need to be reelected? What do we do in order to change this narrative about America? How do we make sure that our concerns are not only being heard, but they're being met? So that's today's cultural conversation. Of course, I'll be back Wednesday for Where My Girls At. Took a little break, but I'll definitely be back for that conversation. This is Old School Heart. I hope you've had a wonderful Sunday, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.